So let's just say you're traveling and you want to stay lean, you want to stay fit, you don't want to sabotage your results. Well, this episode right here is going to break everything down for you so that way you can have success. Now, as somebody that, travels quite often, I relatively stay between, 10% to, I would say, max, 13, 14, maybe even 15% body fat all year round. Nonetheless, I always see visible abs, right? So that's how I gauge myself in terms of leanness, right? When I stop seeing my abs, I'm like, all right, things aren't looking too pretty here. I gotta, dial in a little bit more of my nutrition, dial in a little bit more of my training. But nonetheless, whenever I go traveling, I kid you not, right? It's easy to still stay lean. It's easy to still adapt this lifestyle of being, physically fit, being in shape, and so once again, I want to break down everything in today's episode, just going over how to travel, how to stay lean, how to not sabotage your results. And we're going to be breaking this up into 3 different areas. First, training, second, nutrition, and then lastly, the mindsets. So in case you guys don't know, my name is Coach Joe. I'm the CEO and I'm the head coach of Heartletics. And the reason why I'm telling you that is because we focus on coaching and helping our members create sustainable habits. And so it doesn't matter if somebody's traveling or they're not, they're at home. It doesn't really matter at all, because our job as coaches is we want to teach them. We want to educate them on how to fit things into their lifestyle, plain and simple. We always like to say it like this, is that there's so many different things out there, right? There's keto, there's different detoxes, there's, fasting, there is, paleo, Weight Watchers, P90X, Beachbody, Insanity, all these different things, right? But the reality is that you have to make your lifestyle fit into those programs or those one-size-fits-all, diets, so to speak. Where we're different in terms of we're coming to you, we're literally coming to your lifestyle based on what it is that best serves you best, but giving you the education. Think about it like this, right? Somebody can go to the arcade and drive around in one of those racing simulator games, but let's say if they actually don't know how to drive a real vehicle, that's not really applicable to the real world. So where coaching is, it's kind of like the, way back in the day when you had to get your license, and you had a driver's ed instructor sitting there in the passenger seat with you. Well, guess what, right? Like that same driving instructor that probably taught you how to drive a car is not in your vehicle anymore. Why? Because you gain the knowledge, you gain the skills, right? You gain the education of knowing how to drive that vehicle that's carried you on for the rest of your life. And sure, in the beginning, it was probably nervous a little bit, right? But eventually, right, as you step outside your comfort zone and as the more you adapt, the more you drive that vehicle, the easier it gets. Think about that in terms of what Heartletics is. Right? In terms of us, coming to you and helping you, learn how to properly eat, learn how to properly train your body type, your goals, your lifestyle. I'm sure you heard the phrase most people have, give a man a fish, feed him for a day, or you can teach a man how to fish and feed him for the rest of his life. That's what we want to focus on. Now, the reason why, once again, I'm telling you all this is because we have so many coaching clients and a lot of them travel, a lot of them. So the reason why I want to emphasize that so much is that if for the past 7 years, right, we were able to coach over 3,000 guys, help them get in shape, and let's just say 2,000 of these members, right, traveled quite often, then guess what? If the same tips that I taught these individuals worked for them, it could definitely apply and work for you as well for your travels. So that way, once again, you don't need to sabotage your results and throw in the towel and quit and go back to your old ways. So, with further ado, let's dive right in. Training, first and foremost, right? You have to understand this, and this is what the first thing that we coach and teach all of our members at Heartletics when they get signed in, whether they travel a lot or whether they don't, right? It's that the training is the icing on the cake, the sprinkles, right? Literally, it's about 10% of the results that you're going to get. We have members that, constantly just focus on their steps, do things like push-ups and sit-ups, and guess what? They're able to get off their medications. They're able to lose, 50 pounds of fat, which is insane because they're not even going to the gym. They're not even using any equipment at all. So once again, the reason why I'm telling you that is because the nutrition, the mindset, that's the batter. That's the meat and the potatoes of all of this. That is what's going to really get you the results that you're looking for. So when it comes down to the training, mentally, you have to understand, especially if you're traveling, that it's just the sprinkles. It's just the icing on the cake, because there might be some times where if it's a work travel or I don't know, let's just say a family vacation, right, where you might not have time to go to the gym. You might not have time to get a workout in, and that's a-okay. Because once again, it's the sprinkles. It's the icing on the cake, plain and simple. And now I would say on the flip side, if the hotel that you're staying at, if you are staying at a hotel, if they do have a gym, then great. What you need to really focus on, and just remember this, is keep in mind, for optimization, right, focus on training each muscle group 2 times per week. Okay, if you can do 3 times, awesome, right? But we always like to say, hey, focus on it, 2 times per week, right? Each muscle group, focus on progressive overload, focus on the right amount of frequency, right? Choosing your compound lifts over your isolation exercises. And if you're able to do that, then guess what? You're in a sweet spot. So if let's say you're traveling and you're gone for a week, but let's say you have time to dedicate, 3 workouts in that week to being at the hotel gym. Maybe you got 45 minutes that you can block off to focus on your physical fitness. Then guess what? Do 3 full body workouts, or do a push-pull routine, and then maybe a full body workout. There's so many different splits that you can choose, but what you got to do is, once again, have the education, knowing to train each muscle group at least 2 times per week. Now, that's best case scenario. Typically for me, I don't work out at Planet Fitness, but I always go to a Planet Fitness whenever I travel, because guess what? They're virtually everywhere. And it's cheap, it's affordable, right? So if I'm traveling, odds are within a 20-mile radius, I can find a Planet Fitness, and I know all the equipment. So just keep that in mind also, if let's say there's not a hotel gym. But let's say you don't have time to work out. What are some other things that you can do? Well, I would say, this is what I personally like to do, is I like to start off the day being physically fit and end the day being physically fit, especially if I can't go to the gym and work out. So what do I mean by that? Well, hey, nothing is going to stop you from waking up, let's just say 30 minutes earlier, and doing some push-ups and sit-ups, maybe some bodyweight squats, and just having like a little calisthenic bodyweight circuit that you're just doing right there in the hotel room or wherever it is that you're staying at. I personally always like to start off the day with that, whether I'm traveling or not. Push-ups, some sit-ups, that's just part of my morning routine. But especially, let's say, if I'm traveling, because I know for me, I'm not going to say no to dessert, right? So I want to at least end the evening, instead of being, stuffed to my stomach, at least getting a small little pump in, at least getting a small little circuit and workout in before going to sleep. So you can always keep that in mind, right? Doing some things like push-ups and sit-ups. And then nonetheless, let's say if you can't do that, then just try to be active, right? Try to get some steps in. I know when me and my wife, when we went to Disneyland, I didn't have really a lot of time to work out, but guess what? I got like 20,000 steps in just from walking around the different parks and whatnot. So keep in mind, right, that NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, the steps, so to speak, that's always going to be, in your favor regardless. So it's one of these things where I would say, hey, down the list, right, of training, you have hotel gyms, you have maybe some Planet Fitness gyms that you can go to. If let's say you can't, focus on dedicating that time to making it to a gym and working out, then guess what? Push-ups and sit-ups. Just wake up a little bit earlier. Go to sleep a little bit later, bang out a bodyweight circuit. It doesn't have to be long at all. It's just that you need to be disciplined. You need to be consistent, right? Consistency over intensity. And then lastly, just be active, be mindful of getting your steps in. So that's the training portion of this, okay? And remember, that's just the icing on the cake. So regardless, right, the nutrition and the mindset, that's the biggest part. So let's dive into that. Nutrition. You got options, right? Once again, you just heard me say, I'm never going to say no to dessert. I love my sweets. I love, when we went to Disneyland, I smashed, right? And it's okay. Because one, I understood, right, and I'm going to teach you guys right here, and this is how we coach and teach our members, how to fit in your favorite foods. You have different strategies. The first strategy is focusing on a protein-sparing diet. So what does that mean? Well, hey, focus on having low-carb, low-fat options and pretty much only protein leading up until wherever you're going out to eat. So if let's say I'm going out to dinner time, right, and I want to have a nice, great dinner, a dessert afterwards, I want to make sure that I'm having just only protein. So maybe protein bars, protein shakes, and guess what? you can travel with protein powder. Don't think TSA is going to stop you by any means. Like, you can travel with that. You can travel with protein bars. You can travel with beef jerky, right? Like, you want to have your protein options available, especially if wherever you're going to, it's not there at hand. Now, I would say this, right? This is just a little side tip. Wherever I travel to, the first stop I'm going to is somewhere that's like a grocery store or a GNC or a vitamin shop, where I can make sure that, hey, I can stock up on some of those single pack protein, we just rip them off and boom, you got the protein powder right there. You can even buy them on Amazon. It's pretty convenient. And once again, you can travel with that. Don't think TSA is going to stop you. I'm loading up on protein bars because I want to play it safe, right? The hardest thing for me is getting in enough protein. And I know if I'm going out to eat or just eating out wherever I'm traveling and staying at, right, it's relatively hard because most of the time in the American standardized diet, it's typically higher in carbs, higher in fats, lower in protein options. So that's why I want to make sure that I'm doing my best to be prepared. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. That's a tongue twister, but keep that in mind. Proper preparation prevents poor performance, right? So I want to make sure that I'm prepared, having my protein options. So once again, the protein sparing diet, if I'm going out to eat, right, let's say dinner and then having some dessert afterwards with my family, I want to make sure I'm just loading up on low calories, low carbohydrate, low fat snacks, meals, etc., leading up until dinner time. And then if, let's say, we're going for breakfast, then it's just on the vice versa, right? Lunch and dinner in the evening, I'm only having my protein options, right? So that way I can fit in whatever it is that I want to order, The second alternative is just doing intermittent fasting. I'm typically not the biggest fan of that, typically because you could just save all your calories for going out to eat, and that's perfectly fine if that best suits you. But once again, most of the time, right, wherever you're going out to eat, the American standardized diet is typically lower in protein, higher in carbs, higher in fats. So sure, you can stay within your calorie range, but at least just what we have seen from coaching members, those that are low in their protein typically don't get the best results. It's almost better to be just hitting your protein goal, even if you're higher than your typical calorie range, calorie budget, I should say, okay? You can always mix and match the two. A little bit of protein sparing, a little bit of fasting. Sometimes I like to do that as well, just kind of, depending on what that day occurs for the travels. And I always like to say this, and this is going to be mainly for our members, is, think in terms of the resources that you have at Heartletics. If you are a member that's listening to this, you have the Discover feature, right? Which is amazing because you have literally thousands of different recipes in there. And most of the time, right, you're going to have, wherever you're going out to eat, you're going to have all of our recommendations right there in the Discover feature. So it's very convenient for you. Now, also, another great resource is, hey, you have 24/7 support to me and my team. So if, let's say, and also the community group. So if, let's say, you're going somewhere and let's just say that restaurant's not on the app. You can't log it at all. It's not in the Discover feature. Well, guess what? Just send us over a message or reach out to the community group. Send us over the link to the menu and boom, I promise you within 5-10 minutes, you're going to have somebody send you back some recommendations on what to order as long as you send us over the link to the restaurant menu. It's that simple, right? So if you're a member, you have, plenty of resources at hand. If you're not a member, well, hey, I feel bad for you because you could be making your life a lot easier by just signing up for our coaching program. Now, the last thing you need to understand is the mindset, right? Which is super, super important, right? Remember, consistency over intensity, right? So what does that mean? Well, hey, at the end of the day, you got to think about it like this. There's 365 days out of the year. If we were going to just scratch off 65 of those days as your anniversaries, your birthdays, your travel days, your vacations, sicknesses, illnesses, regardless, right? 65 days. As long as you're good for 300 days, you're perfectly fine. That is a very successful year in terms of you feeding the good wolf, right? The biggest thing that you need to do is just be mentally prepared and understand this. Hey, I'm probably not going to hit my goals. I'm probably not going to be as consistent as I normally am if I'm not traveling. And that's A-okay. Because what you need to understand is you can't let one bad day, right? Let's say you just go AWOL with your food and just over on your calories galore and whatever. It's okay. Don't let one bad day turn into two. Because if you let 2 turn into 3, 3 is going to turn into 4, and it's going to be this snowball effect of a whole entire week of you feeding the bad wolf and not even taking into consideration any of the tips that I just gave for you with the training or the nutrition. And now guess what? By the time you get back home, you're going to be kind of in this vibe of, oh man, it's so hard to get right back in shape. I just outdid all these, amazing results that I already had before traveling. I just, sabotaged and ruined everything. And it's too hard now, like you can't let the bad wolf win. You can't. That's why I always say it's okay if he has a few days out of the year, plain and simple. But like mentally, you have to understand and have some grace with yourself and forgive yourself and understand, hey, I had a bad day. I start off the day with donuts, finish the day with donuts, right? Bad day, but it's okay. Tomorrow, let's just pick up on Coach Joe's tips, focus on the protein-sparing diet, right? Play it safe. Let's get a little, hotel workout in or do some push-ups and sit-ups and get our steps in, and we get right back on track, right? Because successful people do what they have to do whether they feel like it or not. And I want you to really keep that in mind because it's okay if you fail a day, 2 days, 3 days. But what makes the failure hurt in the long run is when you give up. And that's typically what people do. They give up because, hey, they had way too many bad days in a row, way too many days of feeding the bad wolf. And you got to understand, right? Mentally, it's okay. Have some grace, but also get right back on track. Start feeding that good wolf again, So hopefully you guys enjoyed some of these tips. Remember, the training, it's literally just the icing on the cake. And this is what we teach all our members. The batter, the meat and the potatoes, right? That really boils down to the nutrition and also the mindset especially. And once you're able to master that and really figure it out, how to hit your calorie range, how to hit your, macronutrient target and whatnot, and how to train your body properly to best suit in your lifestyle, I promise you this, traveling becomes the easiest thing in the world because guess what? It's a part of who you are now. That's it. It's a lifestyle change. You adapt it to the habits. And that's exactly how we coach and teach our members. These 7 essential fat loss habits for success. So hopefully you guys got some value from today's episode. If you did, definitely let me know. And as always, guys, this has been Coach Joe with Heartletics, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace out, Girl Scouts.